Contributing to the African Renaissance begins with being a part of it. With a fast-growing youth population, Africa boasts enormous market potential. In a time of unprecedented innovation and new technologies on the horizon, the Onyx Africa Podcast serves as a platform to spark and engage in conversations aimed at achieving the African Renaissance.
If you had asked me this question about 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said that the possibility was little. However, looking at the pace of the introduction and implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, we can see that there is a potential for African unity. And of course, what is African Renaissance without African unity? So the pace of the AFCFTA and its implementation alone is a big step in the right direction for the continent. I'm talking about economic integration, development, one African market. That sort of unity is what we need for a rebirth, for the development that we are anticipating. I believe what it will take is education, a lot of sensitization, probably rebranding our curriculum, the courses that we take in school, to be able to educate people enough about the need for this, and most importantly, people to champion the cause.
Complete restoration of our identity and philosophies that have been taken away from us, and expulsion of foreign entities that exploit our homelands, depriving black people of economic and social advancements. Politics-wise, African countries need to take back their means of national defense systems and related affairs and not rely on external alliances on the basis of semi-independence, and appropriate, relevant technological institutions will need to be established for that. And the list is endless. However, an African Renaissance is incomplete without the state of interconnectivity amongst black people in Africa and all around the world.
So across the board, like in terms of academics, leadership, and sports, if we were able to instill those type of things in young kids at a very young age, that means that now Africa has the ability or the potential to compete at a higher level, because now we are trying to catch up with time, because that's what's keeping us behind. Because in a world like this, in a world that we're living in today, it's only the strong that survive, and the strong are those who adapt, because we're living in an ever-changing, life.
I think young people are an important part of Africa's future. In fact, we are Africans' present and future. We make up about 1 billion of the entire continent, which is arguably the youngest continent in the world. And because we are the future of Africa, I think as a young person it is important that we find ways to support ourselves, to empower ourselves, to be ready for the challenges that we would be facing tomorrow, and why not even the challenges that we are facing now. My point, or I would say focus on the African Renaissance and how I'm contributing to that is I am supporting young people by inspiring and empowering them to be agents of change. We need collaboration for Africa to emerge. We need people who are both willing and capable to change the continent. Once that every young person was willing to involve in this movement of change is also capable by supporting them with the resources, network, the funding, because funding is always a major issue for young people who are striving to create impact in their communities. So the Renaissance, from my perspective, is that we need to support the young people of Africa because they are the future. And in many other countries, we have seen that they are already taking charge of their future right now.
and an Africa where its people can benefit from the rich resources that exist within the continent. An Africa that's free from the exploitation of greedy people with the sole intention of lining their own pockets. An Africa where corruption is given zero room to flourish and the best interests of the people are put first. An Africa filled with opportunities for personal and professional development that will lay the foundation for future generations to grow, build, and succeed in the world. An Africa where indigenous knowledge is valued, protected, and properly passed down from generation to generation. An Africa where women and children do not live in fear of being the victims of harmful traditions that were made to serve the whims of a misogynistic and patriarchal societies which never cared for their wants, needs, and well-being. An Africa where every African child can dream and envision the endless possibilities that exist without being limited by fear, lack of opportunities, lack of funding, or where they come from.
Self-determination, self-discovery, and relearning of Africa and its people. It looks like the reshaping of our education system into an education system that is Africa positive and African positive.
An Africa where poverty is a distant memory that we reminisce on during Christmas lunch. An Africa that pushes creativity and innovation to the forefront and drowns any stigma of the arts. An Africa where corruption no longer eats away at the fabric of society. An Africa where production exceeds consumption. An Africa where my daughter doesn't have to look over her shoulder because of what her brothers might do to her when she's alone. An Africa where my son doesn't feel entitled to the temple of the daughters of the soil. An Africa that gets nauseous by the sound and sight of double standards. An Africa where inequality is nullified and we all enjoy the fruits of higher brackets. A land where ambition knows no borders and success is multifaceted. A land where the blood of our neighbors is treated as the blood that courses through our very own veins because we are a single consciousness. It's only a matter of time before Africa awakens from her deep slumber and realizes all the deepest yearnings I have so vehemently expressed.
I've been thinking quite a lot on how to try and, could I say, maybe break it down and simplify it. The African Renaissance. And, you know, if you Google the word Renaissance to look up what it means, the first thing that comes up is the association with that specific European period in which, you know, there's art that's associated with it and all that jargon. And I don't know if we should be using words that already have European connotations because, and I know that like early Dinala African Renaissance, right? And that's what they chose. But for me, it feels as if they're reiterating something that has been very prominent in the previous century and in the current century, where Sabato Africa are richer. We do not identify as ourselves anymore. And it might sound a bit strange in an age where people are so-called trying to reclaim their Africanness on social media, right? But those children who are exposed to social media, ndibacho benebo arua in a world in which was highly westernized. And ndibacho bene, they Bachiumbra being modern, being civilized, being successful. They think of it there's a Western image that pops up. It's not a lot of, we can't really visualize success. Rabaroi visualizer African. And I think that for me, that would be the biggest rebirth, the reawakening and remembering of ourselves. Urimini as a youth, rifunuro di humbura uri rivagai, lirinevo ini, matina shundi afio, nyambo za shundi zifio, our culture, our heritage, and most importantly, our knowledge systems. Understanding that Sabatu Bashango la Africa, we have vast and extensive, intense, in-depth knowledge of our land, of ourselves, of the world that we live in, and that we really need to tap into that. We really need to be able to move on into the modern world, but not a Western world. We need to ri fanela u kona u differentiate modern na western as chitty chitty.
What is the African Renaissance to me? The Renaissance is not a dream, it is indeed imminent.